over on Newsmax, they had a guest on, Heather MacDonald. And I got to say, it's interesting who Newsmax is having on these days. Let's take a listen to what Heather MacDonald had to say about the conviction of Derek Chauvin this past week.
What we've seen with the Chauvin trial is it's going to be impossible to get any kind of fair trial because the threat of riots is going to hang over every single police use of force. Exactly. We are now under the boot of the mob. Yeah. I would just add, Rob, that
there's that tired old argument that I've played for you numerous times now where the jury was not smart enough, was not intelligent enough to actually look at the case presented to them, look at the facts before them, listen to the prosecution and the defense, and come to a decision based on everything put in front of them. No. They didn't do that. They clearly sat there for the weeks that they did, and then instead of deliberating on those last 2 days, they basically just sat around, throwing darts at the board, and decided, okay, sounds like we made it seem like we thought about this enough. We got to go out there and make sure we give a decision that doesn't result in protests and riots across the country. But that's not even the worst of it here. I mean, we've heard that already from the right. Let's hear more about Heather MacDonald, who, by the way, wrote a book called The Diversity Delusion. You know where this is going.
Not just a political issue. That's a little bit reassuring. It's a larger cultural issue. I think.
Here we go. Pay attention to what she's saying here.
Elite whites are terrified that the academic skills gap, the crime gap, is never going to close after trillions of dollars of effort over the last 5 decades. And so they are preemptively ruling out any cultural explanations for it, or God forbid, heritability, and are just doubling down on the white supremacy myth. It is a complete lie.
Right.
We have black privilege today, not white.
Oh, yeah, let me rewind that a little bit. I stopped too soon.
It is a complete lie.
Right.
We have black privilege today, not white privilege. There's not a
black privilege, not white privilege. Right. So privileged being a black person. So privileged being See, they really do view this as a privilege to have people protest and hit the streets for you and make your name infamous because you got killed by a cop. That's the privilege they're viewing here. That you can become a cultural icon. Like, they're really jealous of that. They're angry that you could become an iconic figure in culture. I'm using this terminology because this is how they view it. Because they view it as like a positive thing. Man, George Floyd's name is up in lights now, right? It's a privilege that George Floyd was killed. Stunning stuff. But not even the worst of what she's about to say. I'm going to rewind this just a little bit more.
And so they are preemptively ruling out any cultural explanations for it, or God forbid, heritability, and are just doubling.
There you go. She already said it. I didn't catch it the first time, but that's what I was waiting for. Heritability. I got to play it again for you. Please understand what that means, and I'll explain to you in a second. I'll explain to you in 1 second. I got to just play this clip once again.
Are terrified that the academic skills gap, the crime gap, is never going to close after trillions of dollars of effort over the last 5 decades. And so they are preemptively ruling out any cultural explanations for it, or God forbid, heritability.
Do you realize what she's saying here? She's talking about white elites, like, the privileged elite class of professors and academics and intellectuals who are, in her views here, handcuffed by the mob. And so they can't discuss what, in her view, is the real issue at hand. And she gives 2 possibilities. Cultural. She's basically saying, the idea that black people are brought up this way. They're brought up to kill and brought up to fight with the police and brought up to loot. They're savages. You know this. You know where this comes from. You know this rhetoric. It's on Newsmax we're hearing this. This is on cable TV. If you got Newsmax on your cable plan, if you could turn on your TV, turn your cable box, and watch Newsmax, a portion of your subscription to your cable company is being sent to Newsmax to carry their station. But then she goes, God forbid, and says heredity. Heritability, I think, is that what she actually says?
And her,
Yeah,
God forbid, heritability.
Heritability. She's basically saying genetics. She's basically saying black people are made this way. So she brings up cultural first. You know, maybe they're brought up this way. They live in the ghettos. You know, the right-wing rhetoric here. But then she brings up the idea that genetically, black people are just, violent. And that's why they get into this situation with the cops. This is on Newsmax. This is the bell curve. And, you might be wondering, by the way, where this can be heard other than Newsmax. From Heather MacDonald. And I can tell you that if you didn't catch Heather MacDonald on Newsmax, then you could have just tuned in to Tucker Carlson's show the next night on Fox News. And there she was. I guess he was so impressed by her great points on Newsmax the previous night that he had her on. She wrote another book, apparently, War on Cops. Who would want to be a cop in America? Well, there you have it.